Hi there, Rockstar, and welcome to Stand Out, Get Noticed. I'm Christina Canters, speaker, coach, and founder of The C Method, where I help high-performing professionals and business leaders to build powerful communication skills. If you want to learn more, go to thecmethod.com. Now, each week on the podcast, we address a different topic to help you build a success mindset, present yourself with confidence, build strong relationships, and be an all-round better human. If you haven't yet already, join our community over on Facebook, search for the group The C Method Rockstars, or go to thecmethod.com/community. We cannot wait to connect with you. Now, something that I'm really excited about that I'm working on at the moment that I wanted to share with you is the online group coaching program for women, which kicked off yesterday. We have a group of 5 incredible women from all over the world who are coming together to develop alongside each other in their confidence at work and their communication skills and speaking skills as well to help them have an overall bigger impact in the workplace. So I'm really excited about that. If you missed out on this round, that is okay. You can still apply at thecmethod.com/group coaching, and I'll keep you informed of when the next round starts in the new year. Okay, let's get to this week's episode. Do you struggle to project your voice? Or do others need to strain to hear you when you speak? I've met people who speak, really softly and they don't want to project. And I ask them if they really want to share what they want to share, and they say, "Yeah, I do." And I say, "Well, if you really want to share it, then, why are you not saying it so that everyone can hear?" And I have a lot of people say to me, "Well, I'm afraid that I'm going to make a mistake. And if I speak quietly, and if I make a mistake, then no one's going to hear me." I felt the exact same way when I went busking for the first time. That's street performing. We use the term busking in Australia. And I took my ukulele and I went to the quietest laneway I could find, and I didn't take an amplifier because I thought to myself, well, if I make a mistake, then at least it'll be made very quietly and it's not going to be projected across the whole street. It's just going to be me and my little bubble here. So that was my little safety blanket. Now, this can be a problem when we do want to have our message get out there. We do want to have our ideas recognized, but when we don't believe in the importance of our own message, and we don't believe in the value of our own voice, it can hold us back from projecting ourselves and putting ourselves out there. You may tell yourself the story of, "Oh, I'm just a quiet person," but really, a lot of it is due to mindset. And that is why I am so excited to be resharing this inspiring conversation I had with the wonderful vocal coach, YouTuber, and author, Kimberly Smith. No matter who you are, she's here to convince you that yes, your voice deserves to be heard. Now, Kim says that many students come to her with the belief that their voice isn't good enough, and she helps them to make amazing changes to how they sound, helps them to overcome their fears, discover their unique voice, and unleash their full potential. Kim is also the author of The Moderately Tortured Artist, which she describes as a permission slip for musicians to put themselves out there and start making epic, wholehearted music. Now, what I love about Kim is that she feels the fear and does it anyway. She shares stories about how she freaked out when she got her first thumbs down on YouTube, and how she can't bear to look at her book's Amazon review page. But she continues to push forward. She takes the criticism in her stride, and she continues on her mission to change the world for the better. So Kim and I talk about how to put yourself out there, put your voice out there, opening yourself up to criticism. We talk about vocal projection and how to do it if you want to speak with more confidence and authority. I really enjoyed this conversation with Kim. In fact, you can hear me getting really excited, so much so that I almost break the microphone. So I'm sorry about that. But there was so much amazing content in here, and I absolutely loved her stories. So I'm confident that you will enjoy it too. So please welcome the wonderful Kimberly Smith. How long ago did you start creating videos?
That's a really good question. I want to say like between 4 and 5 years ago, probably. Like it was still relatively new. There was, a few people doing it, but I think because I was also younger, I was, pretty fresh onto the bandwagon of it. But yeah, it was mostly through YouTube, which already had a huge audience there. So it just kind of made sense to start teaching it. And I like doing things where, people can kind of see me and I can receive comments and kind of have that interactive level to it. So yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was terrifying. Like I think every month I kind of get this feeling of I want to take everything that I've ever done down and just hide from the world. And you push through it and you go, no, this is, it's really valuable and I do this for a reason. But there is still that, imposter syndrome that comes in, or the fear of getting the negative comments and that sort of thing. It's always there, I think. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's always just underneath for me.
Take me through that very first video that you created and published.
Yeah, well, I actually did a series of 8 videos, and I did them professionally because I always go and spend way too much money first and then go, oh, I should have started small and then grown and done it that way. But yeah, so I had like a semi-professional sort of crew come in and do it, and it was about breathing. So it was the first part of singing, and I wanted to do this 8-part series on beginner's technique. But yeah, it was very wooden. Like I had pretty much had a script, and I was sitting at my keyboard, and it was all kind of, I had an intro song and like intro montage, and very trying to be polished. I think, I'd seen other people's and I was like, I need to replicate that to be taken seriously. Whereas now I'm much more about, this is me, like here I am, and it's much more authentic and I can do it just in one take, like a conversation or, so it's evolved a lot from that stage.
So no more intro music?
No, I mean, I still have the intro music. I just don't use it because the other thing is that it took 11 seconds, and a lot of people don't watch for 11 seconds even. So you've kind of lost them if you don't get straight into the content. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's less crazy. Editing. So.
Absolutely. So going back to those those negative comments. Because I remember we've had this discussion before about how you receive so many positive comments. Because what's the sort of average view for your one of your videos?
Oh, well, as I said, I've taken some down and kind of started again. So, that's a good question. I feel like one of the most popular ones is kind of 2,000 views maybe. So yeah, there's enough eyes on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I remember the first time that I put videos up and I got my first thumbs down on YouTube, and you're like, dun, dun, dun. Exactly. You're just horrified, and it really it took a huge blow to my ego, and it wasn't even a comment, so I had no knowledge of why this person didn't like it. They could have just not liked my face, you know what I mean, something that I couldn't even do anything about.
Maybe not your intro music.
Or exactly, the intro music, they just didn't even watch the rest of it. But yeah, I get so many more positive comments. I could probably count the negative comments I've had on one hand, and yet still there is that fear. You're just there's going to be another one and I've got to prepare for it, and yeah, it's always just lingering, but you can't stop yourself from making stuff because of that, because there's so many more positive comments and so many more lives that you can affect if you're out there doing your thing.
And this has now led you to writing a book.
Yes.
Which is very exciting. Mm-hmm. What's it called?
The Moderately Tortured Artist.
Moderately Tortured Artist. I love it. Can you give us a brief synopsis of the book or of the theme?
Yeah, so it's a book primarily for musicians, and it talks about kind of the emotional and mental challenges that they go through. So it tackles things like perfectionism, fear of almost all kinds, stage fright, and confidence, losing your passion as well, motivation, practice, sort of, it's wanting to touch on all of those little facets of what makes you a musician, because there are so many musicians that either give up because it's too hard, or somebody's told them they can't do it, or they lose the joy in it because they're striving and hustling so much and not getting anywhere. And so I just wanted to write something. I've called it in the tagline, a permission slip for you to make epic wholehearted music, because people need permission. They don't give it to themselves to fail, to make mistakes, to experiment with things. And so I just wanted to be hey, we're all moderately tortured, and this happens to everyone. Here's a few things that you can kind of do about it and change the way that you think about it.
Love it. Was there a particular story of a particular musician that sort of was the catalyst for this book?
Yeah. So there's probably quite a few, actually. So I would say that the majority of beginner singers that come trembling into my studio and they're like, I want to learn to sing, but I'm terrible. And it's because they've got a story. So somebody has told them that they can't sing. So whether it's a choir teacher telling them to mime when they were like 7 years old, or it's an older brother or a parent that says, you sound like a dying cat. And they take that on board and they live that for years and years and years until they get the courage to kind of go, actually, I don't believe that's a truth. Like, can I do something about this? Because singing is like any other skill, you can learn to do it better. I mean, the amount of people that are tone deaf in the world is minuscule. And yet, like, I would say 50% of people believe that they're legitimately tone deaf. But yeah, there's a lot of stories like that. And one of the biggest ones that kind of impacted me was at university. And I had classmates, and one of my classmates was doing his second year of his degree. And his teacher said to him, I don't think that you're going to pass. I think that you should drop out right now. And what devastated me is that he had a brilliant musical theatre voice, but we were doing a classical, like operatic degree. And so if she'd only just told him, I think that you should switch to doing something in musical theatre, which your voice is better suited to, he may not have completely given up on singing. So that made me really angry.
So these people who come to you, who've had years of being quote, tortured, right, by by thoughts and projections that other people have on them about their singing voice, why is it exactly that they come to you? Is it because they actually want to become a great singer, or is it because they want to deal with this thing that's happened in their past? Or like, what is the actual motivating factor behind them wanting to improve their singing?
Yeah, I would say 90% confidence. And doing something that, they firmly believe they could never do. And that's why it's so powerful. So I get a lot of beginners, and I think it's because I talk about all this kind of like emotional baggage that people have, which a lot of teachers don't. They just talk about kind of the learning, the physical aspects of it. And I think that that's tricky because the way that you feel about things definitely impacts the way that you're going to feel physically, particularly if, you've got people that are on stage trying to speak. The first thing that goes is your breathing. Like you get shallow breaths, you get panicked, you get sweats, like all of that sort of stuff if you're really nervous. So yeah, I get people that have come in and it's not about being a great singer. Like I have people that want to learn to sing one song, and it's funny because they learn that one song and then they keep going because they're kind of addicted to it, and they've proved themselves and whoever told them they can't sing wrong, and they get the joy out of it and there's the endorphins and things like that. But it's something that's been on their bucket list, and they're just desperate to do something that's slightly out of their comfort zone to boost their confidence. It's really cool.
And do they actually go on to sing in front of other people, or is it more for themselves?
Yeah, well, I would say that most of them do. I organise karaoke nights where instead of having the awkward, I used to have concerts where my singing teacher would make everybody perform in front of parents and family, and it was all very structured, and I was terrified and I hated them. So I swore I would never do that. But we just go out, because I teach mostly adults, to karaoke, have a glass or two of wine, and everybody is in the same boat. Some of them are a little bit more advanced, but they've all been there, and so they understand how nerve-wracking it is, and it's a much more supportive environment singing in front of other singers that understand that than, say, potentially your friends. But that's a really good intro into performing or getting out and singing in front of other people. So a lot of them think that they're never going to do that, but actually eventually they do. And that's what's really exciting when they start to come up with ideas like, oh, I actually want to sing in front of my grandma for a birthday or something. You're like, that's amazing that you came in here and you were terrified, and now look at what you've achieved.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I never thought that I would go out and sing in public, like when I went busking, and I did that, and I never thought I'd sing in that sort of public forum, but I never considered it could actually be in that capacity.
Yeah.
Just me with a little guitar.
It really is.
Just me with a little guitar, it wasn't even that big a deal, I suppose, but at the time it was a huge deal.
Yeah, one of my students texted me this morning, and he sang backing vocals in a band. He's a drummer, and so he's just starting to learn to sing, and he said, it was such a huge deal. I was so stressed about it, and then I did it, and I was actually kind of almost underwhelmed because I was like, was that it? Is that all I had to do? Like, he made it this huge deal. And once
Yeah.
you've done it, you're like, that actually wasn't that hard. Even if you have made a mistake, you're like, I bloody well got up there and did it. Like, that's what you're proud of. And that's what you'd actually be much more regretful of, is if you don't take that step and you don't make that courageous move, is, oh, I didn't even try.
So when I went busking, I didn't take an amplifier or anything. I just went back to basics. I went real simple. And I took the ukulele down to this little laneway, and as I was playing and singing, I realized that my ukulele was very quiet, right? Because I didn't have an amp. And I was okay with that because it meant that if I made any mistakes, you wouldn't be able to hear them as loudly. So I felt way more comfortable playing very softly. And thinking about actually taking an amp and going out to Swanston Street, which is a much larger thoroughfare, to play, is 100 times more scary because essentially I'm going to be amplified. And I was thinking about this the other day, and it reminded me of, I thought maybe there is some similarity there with people who feel a little bit afraid to actually project their voices out there in a loud way. Because I work with people, and a lot of them speak very, very quietly, and you know, and then they ask me to help them speak with authority. But the thing is, you can't really speak with authority, you can't speak with confidence and really lead people if you can't actually project and have everyone listen to you.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk to you about that and hear your thoughts on, how can someone start to, firstly with the mind and then with the physical, to be able to really literally get their voice out.
And this is one of the first things that I think I was really interested in terms of the whole mindset and how that impacts the physicality of it. Because if you don't want to be heard, you will not project. So you actually don't use your energy in a way that can help you project your voice because you're terrified. And you're like, the quieter I am, the less people are going to hear me, and that's safe. So you've got to get people to a level where they feel more confident about themselves before they're willing to go, okay, I'm going to put myself out there. And the question that I always ask my students is, how all in are you? Are you all in? And they're always like, nope. I'm like, 30% in. And imagine if you were all in, you're saying that it's not very loud or it's not very strong. And then asking yourself that question is really obvious that you're dipping your toe in the water. So I think part of speaking with authority is believing that you have the right to be there and the right to talk about whatever it is. And if you don't feel that, if you've got that kind of imposter syndrome and you're feeling like a bit of a fraud, what is it that you need to brush up on to speak with more confidence? Is there an element that you're like, I actually don't really know what I'm talking about here? I mean, we've all had that and we've kind of skirted around it, but can you spend an hour kind of researching that so that you can speak with authority on that topic? Or often it's a questions, you're worried about what questions are going to come. And so that's, preparation, I think, is really, really big on that. But the physical is generally a lot to do with breathing. So a lot of the time people breathe shallowly into the chest, whereas you want to take a deeper breath so that the ribs expand, and even expanding kind of into the back as well. So that's the first thing, is to really understand that if you're taking that shallow breath, you're leading the voice from the throat. You're not leading it from the body. And a sort of visual that I give people is that you want to feel like, I don't know if anybody is in my generation here, but Care Bears from the 80s, which
I remember Care Bears.
have been again, there's new Care Bears now, but they shine this massive light from their stomachs.
Yeah.
And so that's what I say about the voice. I'm like, you want to feel like your voice is actually coming from your torso. And the way that we do that in singing is we lower the breath, but we also control the exhale. So you're not smashing the tiny little vocal cords with a lot of air. So people tend to push the air because they think that's what's going to project, but actually you want to control the amount of air so that you have the vocal cords working very efficiently. So yeah, you want to...
Can you hear that difference if you're pushing air out and... can you demonstrate that difference to us?
Oh gosh. Well, it becomes really breathy. So you can kind of you're pushing the air, but you've got this kind of like harsh sound because the chords are trying to stay together for you, but they're having to work really, really hard. So you're getting a lot of air. It's very patchy, and it's kind of like a harsh, aggressive kind of sound. You can also get a lot of husk around it rather than the clarity. But yeah, we tend to try and use more air when we're projecting because that's just what we assume is going to help us project. So with the support of the breath, what we do is we breathe low, and then you actually try to keep your ribs out in singing so that they don't collapse, and they're tied into the diaphragm. So the diaphragm, the breathing muscle, is not pushing quite so much air out. You're actually controlling that, and you're using some of the muscles in there to keep that diaphragm lower.
Yeah,
getting into the boring physiology of it a little bit.
No, but that's all helpful. That's all helpful.
The other thing is that people don't open their mouths.
Right.
It seems really obvious if you're a confident public speaker, but a lot of the time, I'll get people to put 2 fingers in their mouth, so it sort of looks like a gun.
All right, you're putting so Kim's putting her gun fingers in her mouth right now.
Yeah, so you've got the index and the middle finger, stacked on top of each other. And I'm like, that's about where you kind of want to have your mouth open for singing.
When you're singing.
Yeah. And people don't. They're horrified. Like they would have.
That is quite wide.
Yeah, they would have 1 finger, and you can have the little ones, the 2 little ones, if that's more comfortable. But yeah, you're like, oh, that's actually really wide, and we don't do that when we talk because it would feel really weird.
That would feel really bad.
But if you don't do that when you sing, you're keeping a lot of the sound inside your mouth, so you're hearing a lot more of it, but the audience isn't, and often I'll get people to cup their hands around their ears with their elbows straight in front of them because they can actually hear their voice a lot better.
Okay.
Because we can't hear our own voices. We can only feel like the bone conduction and the vibrations in our own head. And so we sometimes assume that we're a lot louder than we are. But most of your sound is going outwards, ideally. So yeah, we kind of need to get a little bit of a grip on that as well. You don't want to be keeping the sound inside so that you can hear it better. You want to be projecting it outside so that they can hear it better. With singers, they're like, oh my gosh, my voice is actually better than I thought it was, because they're losing so much of the fullness of their voice outwards so that they're only hearing the tiny little vibrations.
Is that why sometimes you feel like you sound better in a sort of smaller room when it's a bit echoey,
yeah,
or in the bathroom? You're like, oh, I sound nice.
Exactly.
I should record it here.
It's the acoustics. Exactly. Yeah. So they're getting more feedback of what they actually feel like bouncing off the walls than, if you're in a big room that's kind of dead space that you can't get that feedback.
So the book is not so much about the technique and all of that. It's more about the mindset shifts you need to make as an artist. What's the response been so far?
It's been really, really positive. Like I remember I was talking to you and I said, I think I need to kind of hide the Amazon review page from my vision so that it's the same thing. It's that same, fear of negative comments, but it's been so nice, and a lot of them have just been sort of personal emails where I get to hear people's stories and kind of where they were at with their voice and now where they're going to take it. And it's really cool because, some of it is sharing my own failures and my own fears and insecurities, and some of them are friends of mine or students of mine that have had stories that I just think people can relate to. And it's that human experience that reminds us, like, okay, we're not alone. Like, we can actually, if she can do it, I can do it kind of thing. So there's a lot of things that I definitely am still struggling with and are very open about that. But people have kind of taken that on as just able to, I guess, own their humanity a little bit more and own that, you're going to fall, but you've got to get back up again. Like, it's all in the getting back up again and remembering that this is supposed to be a passion of yours. And I think that when we take something too seriously, a lot of the play and a lot of the joy gets sucked out of it. And so it's always sort of coming back to, this is supposed to be for enjoyment. It's supposed to make you happy. And you've got to make changes around that to enable, that fire to still be in you at the end of the day.
Do you, in the book, help people deal with negative comments?
So I actually have a story in the book about, I did a Periscope I assume that some people will know what Periscope is. It's so it's live video. And the thing with Periscope is that it wasn't just my tribe. So it was a lot of random people on it that I had no idea about and had just followed the hashtag or like whatever it is. And so I was singing on it, and I was singing an Adele song, and I thought it was going pretty well, actually. And I couldn't see the comments that were popping up because I'm blind, and I was performing, so I was a little bit further back from
You're
my
not
phone.
literally blind.
No. Sorry, yeah. I just can't see very well, and I wasn't wearing my glasses. So, so I was like, oh, this is going well, and there's like hearts popping up and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I finished the broadcast, and my best friend called me, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, yeah, like, why? What? And she's like, you didn't see the comments. So Periscope actually had a thing called Catch that you could link with it that would record your Periscope. So I went back and watched it, and there were all these people, having a real go, just being like, you sound horrible, turn it off, like,
oh my God,
what are you doing? And I've been very lucky, and again, I talk about this in the book, that I have had very little negativity about my singing voice, and I feel very lucky to have had that. But there was a lot of hate, and I got really angry at first and really upset, and then I went to a kickboxing class and I just punched the crap out of things. Yeah. And I thought, it's not about me, and that's the biggest thing that I kind of think about. And I also love the Brené Brown quote, which is, something about if they're not in the arena getting their ass kicked, I don't want their feedback. Like, they're not putting their voices out there. They're not doing anything brave. They're trolling behind, very anonymous, often with no photo or real name usernames. So, I think just reminding yourself when you do get negative feedback, is it from somebody that's in the arena? Are they doing what you're doing? Are they being brave, or are they hiding, and are they playing small and just having a bit of a go at you? And then it's really about you need to be proud of how courageous you were to do it in the first place. And I think if you're going to take on any constructive criticism, you've still got to ask, is it from a person that I really kind of respect their opinion, and is it something I can take on board and it will make my art better? But it's hard. It's always hard.
Oh, absolutely.
And allow yourself to feel crap about it, I think, You just dwell in it for a little while and then go, what am I going to do about this? Yeah.
I think it's healthy to acknowledge these negative emotions when they come in, and to not try and squash them or push them away and go, okay, I feel crap right now.
Yeah.
I feel sad right now. I feel frustrated right now. But I'm just going to let that sit with me for a little bit.
Exactly.
And then when I'm ready to leave it behind, If
you don't, you usually ignore it, and then you don't keep moving forward. So you actually don't get up again. You're just like, oh, okay, I don't care what that person thinks, but I'm just going to spend the next 9 months not doing anything like that, again, until you kind of miss it. But I think if you can process it and think about like the comments and whether or not you're going to take them on board and who said them and whether or not it actually matters to you and changes anything about the way you feel about it, then you can get up quicker and you can be like, right, next one. Like, always on to the next one.
So this is all really exciting for you, with your book, your YouTube channel still going really, really strong. What's next for you, Kim?
Well, I'm actually wanting to kind of branch out and speak more to artists. So actually I've started a page that is linked to the Moderately Tortured Artist book, but I want to speak to photographers and to painters and sculptors and, outside of music, designers, because I think that everything that I talk about in the book can apply to them. And I think that, they need to be inspired and they need to be, motivated, because the problem with being creative is that you do deal with a lot of these things on a much bigger scale, because you're creating something that is very personal. It can be received positively or negatively. There's no right or wrong answers, but people always have opinions about it. So I'm just wanting to, I'm thinking about putting together an artist boot camp program to kick off in the new year, which is just making sure that you're always doing something that's moving you forward. Because the other thing is, asking yourself the question of, who am I willing to become to create the kind of stuff that I want to create? And I don't think that most of us are willing to ask that question. And I know it's really uncomfortable for me, but are you doing something that is moving you forward all the time? Are you going to bed and hitting the hay and going, yeah, I made myself proud today? And it can be in any sense. It can be in a corporate sense. It can be in an artistic sense. But I'm tackling it from the art side, because I think there's never too much art in the world. And I'm just really wanting to encourage people that have something to say and get it out of them, because once you've kind of kept it to yourself, there's all that regret for not doing stuff. So yeah, just wanting to be a cheerleader. That's kind of my role.
Awesome. Saving one tortured artist at a time.
I hope so.
Or I should say moderately tortured artist at a time.
Moderately tortured, yeah. And just giving them permission to really go for it. Because we question so much. And as I said, it's in all senses. You don't ask to, get that raise. You don't ask to go on that project. You don't ask to speak at something. And so we really need to ask ourselves, like, would I be prouder if I asked and don't get it, or just don't ask? So yeah, giving yourself permission to really go all in, as I was saying earlier.
So good. So if people want to learn more about your work and check out your book, where should they go?
Yeah, so I'm over at inspiredtosing.com. And also the book has its own website, which is moderatelytorturedartist.com. And there's a free email course which actually takes you through snippets of the book and some exercises that deal with different elements that it talks about.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Another big thank you to Kimberly Smith for joining me on the podcast and being so gracious and letting me reshare that conversation. You can find out more about Kim at inspiredtosing.com or check out the show notes at thecmethod.com/184. All of those links are in the description of your podcast app. Now, talking about putting yourself out there, I just want to share a message that I got from a podcast listener. I won't share her name because I want to keep her anonymous, but she wrote to me and said, "Hi, Christina. I've just successfully completed my first board presentation after being recently promoted to assistant director. I just want to thank you personally, as it was your podcast number 101 on delivery of public speaking that got me there. I now feel like a different person." Now, it was so wonderful receiving this note from this podcast listener, and I just want to say to them, if you're listening, a big congratulations to you, and well done on putting yourself out there. And the fact that you say you now feel like a different person, that's incredible. And I hope that you can take this new confidence and these new skills that you've gained from the experience and take them into further speaking experiences and letting your comfort bubble continue to expand and grow. So well done. If you also have a story like this that you would love to share, or perhaps a question you would like to ask of other podcast listeners, then do come on over and join our Facebook community. We're at The C Method Rockstars, that's the name of the group, or go to thecmethod.com/community and join there. We cannot wait to connect with you. All right, and that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Keep on being awesome, and I will talk to you next week. My name's Christina Canters, and this has been Stand Out, Get Noticed.